Hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel. In today's video, I'll be working on the 12 Days of Creative Cheer Drawing Challenge. This challenge is hosted each year by several artists over on Instagram during the month of December, and I'll link all of their profiles down below in the description bar because they're all so talented and I really enjoy participating in this drawing challenge. Basically what you do is you're given several prompts, 12 prompts to be exact, and as you can see here, you're given 12 prompts to work on and post your work each day that they have specified. So for the second, for example, it's sugar and spice. For the 12th, it's tipsy and toasty. For the 16th, it's candy forest, and so on and so forth. I have participated in the drawing challenge before. I participated last year in December 2021. And it was fun, I enjoyed it, but I was not prepared at all. Like, I would do the prompts like day of, and there's nothing wrong with that, but I wanted to use this as a way to possibly make something, portfolio worthy if possible. And I would like to be more prepared this year as I go into it. So it's currently the 28th of November, and the first prompt is on December 2nd. So I'm trying to, get ahead of it and actually have ideas for each prompt beforehand, before, the day actually comes, and I'm trying to get the sketches ready. And that's pretty much what this video will be. It's me working on the first two prompts of the drawing challenge. And as you can see here, I've kind of, I'm kind of getting the gist of what I want each prompt to be, so whether or not I want it to be an illustration, a pattern, or a lettering piece. And then I'm also just writing down here, I'm just writing down ideas for each prompt, just general ideas. I don't have to stick with it. I'm trying to have fun with this challenge, but I also would like to be more prepared and have, a more consistent style and color palette, sketches, ideas, everything. I just want it all to be consistent and flow nicely together. When I'm done, hopefully I can have 12, well thought out illustrations, lettering pieces, and maybe I'll get a couple of portfolio worthy pieces out of this. One of my goals for this drawing challenge is to create more dynamic compositions, but also fill up the space a bit more. I know that's something I struggle with. You can see in the clip I had just before this one where, I kind of had everything on one plane at first in this sketch. And then here, as you can see, it's a lot more, there's a bit more depth. There's, something happening in the foreground and the background. And it'll lead your eye through the piece a lot better than it would have if I could, kind of kept everything on one plane. So that's something I'm kind of challenging myself with. That's one of my goals for this, is to make more dynamic compositions, but also more engaging, because I would like to incorporate more of a narrative look and feel to my illustrations as well. So here I'm just creating all of my canvases so that I have them all ready to go. Each canvas is going to be 15 by 15 inches, 400 dpi, and CMYK. That way I'm able to print the file later on if I really want to, make a print or put this on a greeting card or something like that. I'm prepared for that, from the get-go. I don't have to worry about trying to switch it over later on. And that's something I'm also trying to do in the new year, is be more intentional with the way I work, whether that's with my illustrations or my weavings. I'm trying to be prepared and try to get things to go the right way from the start, rather than trying to jump through a bunch of hoops later on, because I've been there, I've done that, and I don't want to be on that track anymore. That's another one of my goals with this drawing challenge, is to set myself up for success rather than trying to do things very last minute. In this way, now that I have all the canvases set up with the prompt listed for the name of the canvas along with the date that it's due, I'm a lot more likely at this point to actually follow through with it, unlike last year where it would be, like I said, the day of the prompt being due, and I would try to figure out something, then make a quick sketch. And that's something else that I kind of struggle with a bit, or I have in the past at least, and that is rushing the sketch process. That's something that I have learned to really slow down on and take my time, because it is so important to just have a really good, great, even solid sketch to go off of. In this sketch that I'm making here, it is relatively simple. It's, 3 anthropomorphic animals dancing at a little party. But it is important for me to, have things figured out rather than me trying to figure it out later on as I'm doing the final sketch. Like, what would this hand look like here? What would her dress look like? What do I want it to be, like this or that? It takes a lot, when you have a solid sketch like this, it takes a lot of the guesswork out of the final illustration. And this also goes for the color palette, because with this whole drawing challenge, I have already planned out my color palette, and I'm using the same, I think it's like 15 colors maybe. I'm using about the same 15 colors for all of them. I have it already set up on my iPad in Procreate. So as I said earlier on, I am already setting myself up for success. I have a much higher likelihood of finishing this drawing challenge at this point, because I have all the canvases ready to go with the drawing prompts in place of the titles and the date they're due. I'm already doing 2 of the sketches for the first 2 prompts, a few days in advance. I have my color palette picked out. I'm already doing more solidified sketches. I already have more solidified sketches ready to go. So I am already setting myself up to succeed. I have a much higher likelihood of actually finishing this thing, and that's my goal. I really hope to finish it. So after I did my initial kind of rough sketch on the iPad, so at this point I've done the 5 or 6 thumbnail sketches. I've done the larger, more finalized sketch in my sketchbook, and then I did another rough sketch where I looked at, actual references for things here on my iPad, and then here I am going in and basically making line work, even though I don't really use line work in my pieces. I apologize for my dog barking in the background of that, and there they go again. That's just, I'm not even going to edit it out, because that's just, part of my life. So, as I was saying, I don't use line work in my pieces, but I like to have a more refined sketch to more consistently reference as I'm working on the final illustration. That way I'm not looking at a bunch of sketchy, jagged, quickly drawn lines the way I would be if I just used this initial sketch that I had, the one that's in this magenta color. I now have a much cleaner looking sketch that I can reference over and over again as I work on the final illustration. Earlier, I spoke very briefly on being more intentional in the new year. And I just want to talk about that a little bit more, because that is something that I have kind of struggled with, especially this year. Just kind of using my time more wisely, not necessarily in a way to be more productive, like making art, or making things for my shop or something like that, but just in general, being more intentional about if there's a book that I'm reading and I really don't like it, I'm bored by it, the past version of me would have just kept reading it because I felt like I had to, because it's I can't just stop a book in the middle of it. But the way I look at it is, what's the point of finishing a book that I don't like? I guess sometimes you just kind of want to see where it goes. You're like, how can this book get any, like, how can it have a happy ending? Or like, if it's one of those highly recommended books, it's, being talked about by everybody, and then you read it and you're like, I don't understand the hype of this book. With that example, I think it would be better. It would save me a lot of time, a lot of headache, to just stop the book, being more intentional about what I read, what I consume. I kind of went on a tangent there, but you get the gist. I would like to be more intentional about what I read, watch, listen to in all aspects of my life, whether that's, personally or professionally. Something I'd like to do with the newfound time that I have now that I'm no longer scrolling on TikTok and Instagram nearly as much is I'd like to work on my baking, because I actually really enjoy baking and I have a huge sweet tooth. And one of the most disappointing things is like when you go to like a grocery store and you buy like a slice of cake, like pre-made cake or something, and then you get home and you're like, oh, I'm so excited to eat it, and then you eat it and then it's like, oh, it's dry, or something like that. It's dry, or it's like the frosting is too sweet, or not sweet enough, or like something's wrong with it. And you're like, I always think like, if I could have just made my own cake or my own cookies, like I wouldn't have to wonder if something went wrong that because somebody else was baking it. Like I would know, like, oh, I forgot an egg, or I didn't add enough sugar or something. I keep going on these tangents, but the point is, I would like to spend more of my time baking because I do enjoy doing that. Like these little mice here, they have made this whole cake. How cute is that? Okay, I realize now that the little cake tangent I went on earlier about how like you go to the grocery store and you come home and the cake is dry, that happened to me today. So that's why it's like fresh in my mind, and it was such a specific example because I did get a piece of cake today and it was dry and it was sad, and I'm just like, oh, if I made the cake myself, I would have, you know, at least I could blame myself. Anyway, back to art. Earlier, I talked about the importance of that final sketch, and um, you can see here that it really does make it so much easier for me to just go in and put down these flat colors. I am adjusting where some of the stars are. I'm adding a star or two here on his little sweater. But for the most part, I had everything planned out, figured out. And because I was more intentional with, what I wanted to have the finished piece look like, and I took that time to make the final sketch look as nice and crisp as I did, it's now significantly easier for me to work on this piece than it would be if I had just gone into this blindly, without a plan. That would, I still could have made a quality illustration, but I think it makes it that much better knowing that it makes me personally feel better that I have taken all these steps to make a higher quality piece here. I truly think that this illustration here tells a story. It's, I'm checking off all the boxes that I've wanted to check off so far in doing this challenge. I said I wanted it to be a bit more dynamic, which I think it is, than at least, compared to my past works that I've made. I want it to tell more of a story, be more of like a narrative piece. I am telling a story here of the little cake decorating mice. getting ready for their little holiday party or whatever their little festivities are. And then I also said that I wanted my pieces to feel more engaging, which I also think they do, or this one does. So far, we're doing a great job of, meeting my goals and expectations for this challenge so far. Something I really enjoyed so far with doing this drawing challenge so far this year, but also last year, was just kind of seeing the way other artists take on the prompts and how, their own interpretation of each prompt. So for this one, for example, it's sugar and spice, and I did my little mice making like a spice, decorating like a spice cake or something. I guess a spice cake, a carrot cake, something like that. But this other artist I saw a lot of people do, like gingerbread cookies and things like that, like kind of like a spread of different cookies, which was really cute. And I just love seeing all of them. But I saw some people do like the inside of a spice cabinet with like really funky looking spice jars and whatnot. So I think it's really kind of like a nice community of people who participate in this drawing challenge. And I look forward to it each day that, a new prompt is due. I look forward to going into the hashtag and, seeing what other people have done, because some of them I'm like, oh wow, I never would have thought of that. That's so cool. So it is really fun to see other artists' interpretation of certain prompts. I think the prompt that I'm kind of most looking forward to is one that I'll be modifying myself. So for the 19th, it's gnome for the holidays, and I am just not a fan of gnomes. I don't like them. I don't think you'll ever see me draw a gnome. So I think I'm just gonna do like a pattern of Santas. That's my idea so far, but I haven't gotten to that day yet. We still have a ways to go until then. The 12 Days of Creative Cheer Drawing Challenge also kind of is a really good way to get me in the mood like for Christmas, for the holiday season. Because usually I really wouldn't have drawn these kinds of things otherwise, so it's a nice way to kind of get me into the holiday spirit and also get me to draw things that I usually wouldn't have. Another one of the prompts is string up the garland, and for that one I was thinking about doing like more of these mice, maybe putting lights on a tree and like the sparkly garland. I was thinking about doing that, so we'll see. But like I probably would not have drawn that otherwise, like without these prompts, so that's really fun. I think it's a nice way to get people out of their comfort zone and drawing things they wouldn't normally do. And like I said earlier, it is really fun to see other artists' interpretation of different things. Like I'm really excited to see what other people draw for Jingle Bell Boogie, which was the sketch that I finalized in this video earlier on of the anthropomorphic animals. So I'm looking forward to just seeing what other people do and how they interpret all these different prompts. As I near the completion of this piece, I can't help but get excited to continue with the rest of the challenge and hopefully succeed in completing the whole thing. Because as I said earlier, that is one of my goals this year. Also, so far, being more intentional with my work has, paid off. So we'll see how this journey goes. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed. See you in the next one. Bye!